The red sky burned like fire. The air was heavy, full of dust and smoke. In the middle of broken buildings and silent streets, two alien girls hid under the shadow of a fallen wall. They were thin, cold, and weak. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes wide and full of fear. They had no home, no family, no safe place to go. War had taken everything. For many days, they had been running. Every corner of the city was dangerous. The enemy patrols walked on metal legs, their red eyes scanning the ruins. If they found anyone alive, they would take them away. No one ever returned. The older girl, Lyra, held the younger one close, her arms wrapped around her like a shield. The younger one, Sora, was shaking. Her clothes were torn, her feet bare. Lyra whispered, "Stay quiet." Her voice was soft but strong. They had learned that sound could mean death from far away. A strange noise came through the air. It was not the sound of alien patrol ships. Those ships made a sharp, cold hum. This sound was deeper, warmer, and slower. The girls looked at each other. They had never heard this kind of engine before. The ground shook lightly. A shadow moved over the broken street. A ship was landing. Not a warship, not like the ones that had destroyed their home. It was smaller, cleaner, with a smooth silver body. Steam hissed as the door opened. Light spilled out into the dark street. From inside the ship, a figure stepped out, tall, wearing a dark suit. Not metal, not alien. The face was different too. The skin was light brown, the hair dark, the eyes looked human. Yes, human. The stories said humans lived far away. The stories also said humans were dangerous. But this one did not look dangerous. He looked calm. The human stood still. He looked directly at the girls. His voice was strong, but not loud. "Both of you, come home," he said. The words were simple, but the girls did not understand them all. Still, something in his tone felt safe, warm, like he really meant it. Lyra pulled Sora back. She was not sure. Why would a human help them? Maybe it was a trap. The human slowly reached into a bag and took out a small package. He placed it on the ground and stepped back. Inside the package was food. Real food. Not the dry leaves or dirty water they had been surviving on. It smelled fresh. Sora's stomach growled. She took a step forward, but Lyra grabbed her hand. Then a sharp sound cut the air. The metal steps of alien patrols. They were close. The human's eyes narrowed. He looked at the girls again and pointed to his ship. "Now," he said. His voice was urgent. Lyra hesitated, but then she saw the red light of the patrol's eyes turning the corner. There was no time. She grabbed Sora's hand and ran towards the human. The patrols shouted in their alien language. Lyra did not look back. The human moved quickly. He opened the ship's door wider. Inside was bright and warm. The smell of clean air hit their faces. The girls jumped inside. The human followed and slammed the door shut. A loud hum filled the air. The ship lifted off. Through the small window, the girls saw the alien patrols firing at them. But the shots missed. The ground grew smaller and smaller. The ruined city became just a dark shape under the red sky. They were leaving it behind for the first time in many days. The girls could breathe without fear. Inside, the human looked at them. He smiled gently. "You're safe now," he said. They didn't understand all the words, but they understood the feeling. The human handed them the food. Sora took a bite. Tears filled her eyes. Lyra sat still. She didn't cry, but in her heart, she felt something strange hope. Somewhere deep in space, far from the war, a new journey had begun. The silver ship flew low over the broken city. The engines gave off a deep hum that made the windows of ruined buildings shake. Inside, Lyra and Sora sat close together on a soft bench. They had never felt such smooth walls. everything inside. The ship was clean, bright, and without cracks or dirt. It was like stepping into another world. The human moved to a panel full of lights and buttons. His hands worked quickly. From a small screen came a sharp beep. He frowned. "They're tracking us," he said. The girls didn't understand the words, but they could see his face. It told them enough danger was still close. The ship tilted sharply to the left, through the window. They saw 3 black alien patrol ships rising from the ground. There, red lights blinked like angry eyes. Sora gasped and grabbed Lyra's arm. The human tapped something on the panel. A shield of blue light shimmered around the ship. The alien ships fired. The blasts hit the blue shield and spread out like ripples. On water, the human kept his focus. His voice was calm. "Hold on," he said. The ship shot upward into the red clouds. The girls felt their bodies pressed back into the seat. Sora laughed nervously. Lyra kept her eyes on the human, trying to read his movements. Suddenly, a warning sound filled the cabin. The human looked. Over his shoulder, "Strap in," he said. He pointed to the belts on the seat. The girls quickly copied what he showed them. A moment later, the ship spun hard to the right. The alien ships followed like black shadows. They darted through the clouds. Lightning flashed around them. One alien ship came close on their left. Its weapons glowed bright, ready to fire. The human hit a red button. A small hatch opened on the side of the ship. Something shot out. A silver ball that burst into a cloud of sparks. The sparks swirled and formed a bright net. The alien ship flew into it and spun out of control. Falling toward the ground, Sora's eyes went wide. She whispered something in her own language too. "Lyra." Lyra nodded slowly. This human was not like the ones in the scary alien stories. He was different, but there were still 2 more enemy ships. They moved faster now, cutting through the air. The human pulled a lever. The silver ship dropped suddenly, almost like it was falling. The girls' stomachs rose into their throats. Below, they saw a narrow canyon cutting through the rocky land. The humans steered into it. Walls of rock rushed past on both sides. The alien ships followed. One wrong turn could smash them all into stone. The human's hands were steady, his eyes sharp. He turned left, then right. The canyon twisted like a giant snake. The enemy ships stayed close. One of them fired. The blast hit the rocks, sending stones raining down. The human used the falling rocks as cover. He slid the ship sideways and disappeared behind a wall of dust. The last alien ship shot past, not seeing them when it turned to come back. It was too late. The human shot upward out of the canyon. The alien ship couldn't turn in time. It crashed into the rock with a loud explosion. Silence filled the cabin, except for the hum of the engines. The human let out a slow breath. He pressed a few buttons. The ship's lights changed from red to soft white. They were safe, at least for now. He turned to face the girls. "You're all right," he said. Lyra tilted her head, not understanding every word, but she could feel the meaning. The human reached into a small locker and took out a blanket. He draped it over Sora's shoulders. She smiled shyly. Her small fingers touched the soft fabric like it was something rare and precious. For the first time since they met him, Lyra spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Why? Help us," she asked in broken words. The human looked at her for a moment. His eyes were serious, because no one else would, he said. Lyra didn't understand every word, but she knew what his eyes said. "You matter." The ship rose higher. Leaving the war-torn planet behind, through the window, the red clouds faded. Black space opened in front of them, full of stars. The human set the controls and leaned back. "Earth," he said softly. Pointing ahead, Lyra and Sora looked out. Somewhere far away, past all those stars, was the place he called home, but in the shadow of space. Danger could still be waiting. They were not safe yet. And the girls knew their journey was only beginning. The silver ship floated through the endless black. Stars shone like cold diamonds. Scattered in every direction, Lyra and Sora sat near the wide window, their eyes wide they had never seen. So many stars, on their own planet. The sky had been red and thick with smoke. Here the darkness was clear, endless, and almost alive. The human moved quietly between the ship's panels. His steps were steady. His eyes calm. Every now and then, a soft sound came from the control board. Green lights flashed and faded. He would press a button or turn a knob. The girls watched. Curious, Sora pointed to one of the blinking lights. "What is?" she asked in her broken voice. The human smiled and said slowly, "Navigation." The word was strange in her mouth, but she repeated it. He nodded, pleased. The cabin smelled faintly of something warm. The human opened a small metal box and took out a packet. He poured hot water into it, steam rising in the air. The smell was rich and new. He handed them each a small cup. Inside was thick brown liquid, chocolate, he said. The girls took small sips. It was sweet and soft, like nothing they had ever tasted. Sora's eyes sparkled. Lyra hid her smile. For a while, the ship was quiet. The hum of the engines was like a deep lullaby. Sora began to doze, her head leaning on Lyra's shoulder, but Lyra stayed awake. Her eyes kept drifting to the human. She wondered why he had risked himself, why he had come to their broken city at all. After some time, the human tapped the control panel and a large screen lit up. An image appeared, a blue and green planet turning slowly in the dark. "This is Earth," he said. His voice was softer than before. Almost proud. The girls stared. They had never seen a place with so much. Blue oceans covered most of the world, white clouds curling above them. Green shapes of land broke the blue in soft patterns. It looked alive. It looked like a dream. "Safe," the human said, pointing to the planet. He then pointed to the space around them and shook his head. "Not safe." The girls understood the human was taking them away from danger. But safety was still far. The human tapped the screen again. Red dots appeared on the map around their position. Some were moving closer. Lyra felt her stomach tighten. More ships were out there. Maybe enemies, maybe something worse. The human adjusted their path. The ship slid into a glowing band of light. A nebula. Clouds of blue and gold dust swirled around them. It was beautiful. But Lyra could see he was using it as cover. The thick clouds would hide them from scanners. Every now and then, a shadow passed in the distance. Shapes that could be ships or just tricks of the light. They moved on deeper into the glowing fog. After a long silence, Sora woke up and looked around. Her voice was soft. "Where we now?" The human thought for a moment, then said slowly. "Halfway." Sora nodded, even though she did not understand fully. She pointed at herself and Lyra. "We go Earth." "Yes," the human said, smiling. Sora grinned and leaned against her sister again. The hours passed. The girls began to explore the ship a little. There was a small room with soft seats and a screen that showed moving pictures. The human played a short video. Children on Earth running in green fields. The girls stared at the bright grass, the clear sky, the laughter. It felt like magic. It also felt far away. Then, without warning, the lights in the cabin flickered. A loud alarm echoed through the ship. The human rushed to the controls. On the screen, a shadowy shape appeared behind them. It was long and sharp, like a spear in the dark. Another ship, it was moving fast. The human's jaw tightened. He turned a dial, and the engines roared louder. Lyra held Sora close. The warm feeling of safety was gone, replaced by cold fear. Through the window, she saw the shadow drawing closer. Bright lights flashed from its side, weapons charging. The human pressed a yellow button. Metal shutters slid over the windows. the cabin went dim. They couldn't see the enemy anymore. But they could feel the chase. The ship tilted sharply, making Sora grab Lyra tighter. The hum of the engines rose into a deep growl. Every movement threw them side to side. The girls could hear their own breathing, fast and shallow. Then the humans spoke. Not loud, but firm. "Hold on." The ship shot forward like a silver arrow. The sound of the engines filled every corner. Somewhere out there, in the dark, the shadow followed. Earth was still waiting, but to reach it, they would have to survive the next hunt. The chase lasted for hours. The shadow ship followed them through the glowing clouds of the nebula. Every time the human tried to change direction, the shadow stayed close. It was like a predator hunting its prey. But then, slowly, the shadow began to fade from the scanner. The human's hands stayed steady on the controls. Only when the red mark disappeared completely did he let out a long breath. The ship slowed down. The engine softened to a low hum. Lyra and Sora sat quietly. Still holding on to each other, the human turned in his seat and looked at them. "You're safe?" "For now," he said. They did not understand every word, but the way he spoke made the meaning clear. He reached into a storage box and pulled out a small black device. It looked like a flat stone with lights. "Translator," he said, pointing. To it, he pressed a button and a soft tone filled the air. "Now, you understand." The device said in a clear voice, repeating his words. The girl's eyes widened. Sora nodded slowly. "Yes, understand," the human smiled. "I am Daniel." The device translated his name. "Lyra," Lyra said, pointing to herself. "Sora," said the younger girl. Daniel repeated their names like he was saving them in his mind. From that moment, words began to flow more easily. Daniel spoke slowly, letting the device translate. He asked them what had happened. Lyra told him about their home, a small green moon full of forests and rivers. How one night the sky turned red with fire. How ships came down like black knives. How everything burned. She spoke with simple words, but Daniel could see every detail in her eyes. Sora told him about hiding, running, sleeping in cold ruins. She spoke of the hunger that never went away. Daniel listened without interrupting. When they finished, he said quietly, "No one should live like that." In return, Daniel told them about Earth. He spoke of blue oceans, tall mountains, and great forests, of warm sunlight in the morning and rain that smelled fresh and clean. The girls listened like children hearing a bedtime story. To them, Earth sounded like something from a dream, a place that could not be real. Later, Daniel showed them small things from his bag. A silver watch that ticked softly, a small book with pictures of people smiling, a smooth stone from a river. Sora touched the stone and tilted her head. "Why, Carrie?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "It reminds me of home." The translator repeated his words. Lyra glanced at Sora. They understood. Daniel missed his home, just like they missed theirs. As the hours passed, the fear of the chase began to fade. The girls moved around the ship more freely. They discovered a small room with beds. Daniel told them they could rest there, but Lyra refused to sleep. She wanted to keep watch. Daniel didn't argue. He simply handed her a blanket and a cup of water. She sat near the window, watching the stars drift by. At one point, Daniel sat beside her. "Do you trust me yet?" he asked through the translator. Lyra thought for a moment. Her eyes were still cautious, but softer than before. "You save us," she said. "I want to trust." Daniel nodded. "That's enough for now," he said. During the next meal, Daniel taught them a few Earth words without the translator. He pointed to himself. Human pointed to them. Friend. The girls repeated the word slowly when Sora said, "Friend." Daniel smiled wide. It was the first time she had spoken the word. Lyra looked at him and said it too. Something unspoken passed between them, a thin thread of trust beginning to grow. But the moment of peace was short. The scanner beeped again. A new signal flashed, not the shadow ship from before, but something else. Daniel's expression changed. "We have to move," he said. The girls hurried to their seats. The engines roared again. The stars outside began to shift. Daniel took them into a narrow corridor of space between two glowing fields. "This path is dangerous," he warned. But faster, the ship shook as they entered. Strange lights flashed outside. Energy storms twisted like snakes. Daniel kept the ship steady. Lyra's hands gripped the armrest. Sora buried her face. In her sister's side, Daniel glanced at them. "It's all right," he said. The translator repeated the words. Lyra looked at him and gave a small nod. For the first time, she believed it. When they finally cleared the storms, the space ahead opened wide and calm. Daniel checked the scanner. No signs of pursuit. He leaned back and let out a breath. The girls relaxed too. Sora even laughed softly. It was the first real laugh Daniel had heard from them. That night, if night could exist in space, they all sat together near the front window. Daniel pointed to the bright stars. Naming them one by one, the girls repeated the names. Some clumsy in their mouths, they talked until their eyes grew heavy. When the girls finally slept, Daniel stayed awake. He looked out into the dark. He knew the journey was still long, but for the first time since he left Earth, he felt less alone, somewhere deep inside. Lyra and Sora had started to believe in him, and that was something worth protecting at any cost. The stars outside were calm. The ship moved smoothly through the dark. Lyra and Sora were sleeping in the small bed space, their breathing slow and even. Daniel sat at the control panel, watching the scanner. For hours there had been nothing, no red marks, no warning sounds. It felt like peace. Too much peace? Daniel's eyes narrowed. He knew space was never truly quiet, the moment you believed it was safe. Something would find you, and then, as if answering his thought, the scanner beeped, a sharp, quick sound that broke the silence. A red dot appeared at the edge of the screen. It was moving fast, too fast. Daniel tapped the controls, zooming in. The shape was large, much larger than the patrol ships they had escaped before. Its signal was strong. Whoever it was, they were coming straight toward him. He turned in his seat. Lyra, Sora. "Wake up," he said. The translator repeated his words. The girls stirred, rubbing their eyes. Sora yawned. "What? Wrong?" Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "Enemy ship." "Big one." The girls' faces changed. The warmth of rest vanished, replaced by the cold edge of fear. They moved to their seats and buckled in without him telling them. Daniel pressed a few buttons. The silver ship's engines began to growl. He turned them away from the red mark, pushing into open space. But the enemy was faster, in minutes. The scanner showed the red mark closing the distance. Daniel cursed under his breath. This wasn't just a patrol. This was a warship. Why follow? Lyra asked through the translator. Daniel's eyes stayed on the screen. "Because they don't want you reaching Earth," he said. Sora's voice was small. "They want take us back." "Yes," Daniel said. Or worse, the warship's lights appeared behind them, bright and sharp, like knives in the dark. Daniel switched on the ship's shields. A faint blue glow wrapped around them. Then the first blast hit. The sound vibrated through the walls. Sora flinched. Lyra reached for her sister's hand. Daniel kept his focus, hands moving fast over the controls. He took them into a nearby asteroid field. Huge rocks floated in all directions, spinning slowly. Some were the size of houses, others as large as mountains. The enemy followed. There, guns firing. The blasts smashed into the asteroids, sending clouds of stone into the dark. Daniel weaved between the rocks. The girls watched him, their fear mixing with amazement. He moved the ship like it was an extension of his own body. Every turn was sharp but perfect. Every narrow gap taken at the last second. But the warship was still there. It was bigger, but it was relentless. Can't outrun them. Daniel muttered. He glanced at the girls. Lyra. Sora. I need your help. They looked at him, surprised. What? Lyra asked. Daniel pointed to a side panel. See that lever? When I say now, you pull it. They nodded, their fear turning into focus. The chase twisted deeper into the asteroid field. Daniel led the enemy toward the largest rock of all. A massive asteroid split in two. A thin gap ran through it, just wide enough for his ship. He headed straight for it. The warship followed without hesitation. The gap came closer, closer. Now. Daniel shouted. Lyra yanked the lever. A panel on the back of the ship opened. Releasing a cluster of small metallic spheres, they drifted into the gap just as the warship entered. Daniel hit another switch. The spheres exploded into a bright white flash. The asteroid's edges shook, breaking loose heavy chunks of rock. Oh! The warship slammed into them, metal tearing. Its lights flickered and went out. The scanner showed the red mark fading. They had done it. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the ship's engines. Then Sora let out a laugh, short, shaky, but real. Lyra smiled, looking at Daniel. You. Clever, she said. Daniel chuckled. You too. They left the asteroid field and entered open space again. The stars stretched wide before them. But Daniel didn't relax. If they sent one ship, they can send more, he said. Lyra nodded slowly. So. Still danger, yes, Daniel said. But we'll face it together. The girls exchanged a look. They had never had someone say together to them before. It was a strange feeling, a good one, hours later. The warship was just a memory, but the weight of the chase still sat in the cabin. Daniel set the ship on autopilot for a short while. He leaned back, watching the girls. They were tired, but they no longer looked like the lost, hopeless creatures he had found in the ruins. Now they were alert, ready, and that gave him hope, somewhere far ahead. Earth waited, but behind them, in the dark corners of space, enemies still searched. The journey was not over. It was only getting harder. The silver ship moved quietly now, but quiet in space was never a promise. Daniel sat at the controls, scanning the black ahead. Lyra and Sora were beside him, their eyes fixed on the endless stars. They had survived the warship in the asteroid field, but the danger had changed them. They were no longer just passengers, they were part of the fight. Daniel adjusted the ship's course. We're getting close to the outer line of Earth's defense zone, he said through the translator. Lyra leaned forward. Safe there. Safer, Daniel replied, but we have to reach it first. The scanner beeped, not a sharp, fast warning like before. This one was slow. Steady, Daniel frowned. A large object was moving toward them. It wasn't chasing. Not yet. It was waiting ambush, Daniel muttered. He tapped the controls, switching the scanner to high range. The screen filled with the outline of a massive vessel. It wasn't a patrol ship or a warship. It was worse. A Hunter-class destroyer built to capture ships and strip them apart. Its hull was dark and jagged, designed to hide against the black of space. Once you were caught in its grip, you didn't escape. Sora's voice trembled. What we do? Daniel didn't answer right away. He was thinking. The destroyer was blocking the shortest path to Earth's line. Going around would take days. Days they didn't have. Lyra leaned closer to him. We fight. Daniel's eyes met hers. He didn't like the word fight, but there was no other choice. Not fight. Outsmart, he said. He turned to them both. I need your help again. In the back of the ship, Daniel opened a storage panel. Inside were tools, wires, and small metal capsules. He handed one to Lyra and one to Sora. "These are pulse charges," he explained. "They don't destroy, but they overload systems." The translator's voice made the words sound calm, but the meaning was clear. Dangerous work ahead. The plan was simple and risky. Daniel would draw the destroyer's attention. The girls would slip into the small maintenance pod attached to the ship's side. The pod could detach and float close to the destroyer's hull once they reached a certain spot. They would attach the charges. When the charges went off, the destroyer's main sensors would shut down. Just long enough for Daniel to blast past it in the cramped pod. Lyra strapped Sora in. Her hands were steady, even though her heart was racing. Daniel's voice came through the small speaker. "Stay quiet, stay focused." The pod detached with a soft thump. They drifted away from the silver ship. The black of space wrapped around them, silent and endless. The destroyer loomed ahead. It was so big, it blocked out part of the starfield. Its hull was covered in strange, glowing lines. Sora stared, whispering, "It looks alive." Lyra didn't answer. She was busy guiding the pod toward a cluster of vents Daniel had pointed out. Meanwhile, Daniel powered the silver ship's engines. He angled himself so the destroyer's scanners would pick him up. Sure enough, bright beams of light swept toward him. The destroyer began to move. Weapons unfolded from its sides like the claws of a beast. Inside the pod, Lyra reached the target point. Her fingers moved quickly, pressing the charge against the hull. The small device stuck in place. Sora placed hers just a few meters away. They exchanged a quick look, both ready. Lyra tapped the done. Daniel hit the trigger. In an instant, both charges lit up with a blinding white flash. The glow ran through the destroyer's hull like cracks of lightning. Its weapons froze mid-movement. Its scanning lights went dark. "Hold on," Daniel shouted. The silver ship roared forward. Daniel swung past the destroyer's silent frame for a moment. They were close enough to see the jagged edges of its metal skin. Then they were past, moving into open space. The pod reattached with a clank. Lyra and Sora stumbled out, pulling off their straps. Sora ran to the front window. The destroyer was shrinking in the distance, still dark and still. They had done it. Daniel turned to them. "You saved us," he said. Lyra shook her head. "We all save." Daniel smiled. She was right. This was no longer just his mission, it was theirs. The rest of the journey to Earth's defense zone was quiet. But it wasn't the same kind of quiet from before. This one felt different. Like the silence after a storm. The kind where you know you've survived something that should have ended you. As they approached the edge of the defense line, lights began to appear, small at first, then brighter. Not enemy lights this time, but the blue glow of Earth's guardian satellites. Daniel slowed the ship. "We made it," he said. Sora grinned wide. Lyra looked at the stars ahead. For the first time since the war began, she let herself believe in tomorrow. But Earth was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning. The silver ship crossed the last line of defense. Earth's guardians scanned them with beams of blue light. For a moment, Lyra and Sora froze, afraid of what the lights meant, but Daniel's voice was calm. "It's all right, they're friends," he said. The translator repeated the words, and the girls relaxed through the front window. Earth grew larger. The blue oceans shimmered. In sunlight, white clouds swirled over green lands. It was more beautiful than any picture Daniel had shown them. Sora pressed her face to the glass, her eyes wide and shining. "Real?" she whispered. Daniel said. "Real." The ship entered the planet's atmosphere. The sky outside turned bright blue. For the girls, it was the first time they had seen a sky that wasn't red or black. Wind rushed around the ship as it descended. Below, green forests stretched far and wide, Lakes sparkled like mirrors. Birds soared beneath them, wings flashing in the sun. Daniel guided the ship toward a small valley surrounded by hills. In the middle stood a cluster of houses with roofs that glowed warm in the light. Fields of yellow flowers waved in the breeze. It was peaceful, so peaceful it felt like another universe. The ship landed softly on a grassy field. The ramp lowered with a hiss. Warm air swept inside, carrying the smell of earth and flowers. Lyra and Sora hesitated at the doorway. The ground looked so soft, so alive. They had been walking unbroken. Stone and metal for so long, they almost didn't know how to step on something living. Daniel walked down first, turning to them. "Come on," he said, holding out his hand. Lyra looked at Sora. Then they stepped forward together. Their bare feet touched the grass. It was cool and gentle under their skin. Sora gasped and laughed softly. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the wind on her face from one of the houses. People began to walk toward them. Men, women, children, all smiling, no weapons. No fear. One woman carried a basket of bread. A man held out a folded blanket. A boy ran forward with 2 pairs of small shoes. The girls froze, unsure if they should move. Daniel stepped beside them. "It's all right. They're welcoming you," he said. The woman knelt in front of Sora, offering her the bread. Sora took it slowly, almost afraid it might vanish. She bit into it, and her eyes filled with tears. Lyra accepted the blanket, feeling its warmth. For a moment, neither of them could speak. Daniel introduced them to the people. "These are my friends," he said. "They have no home, but they do now." The translator repeated his words. The villagers nodded, some placing gentle hands. On the girls' shoulders, it was not pity. It was acceptance over the next hours. The girls were shown a small house near the edge of the village. It had a roof made of dark wood, windows that opened to the forest, and a soft bed inside. There were clothes folded neatly on a chair. A table with fruit and water. It felt unreal. Sora ran her hands over the bed covers. Lyra touched the wall. Like she needed to be sure it was solid. That evening, Daniel joined them for a meal in the village square. The sun was setting, painting the sky in gold and orange. Children played nearby, their laughter mixing with the sound of wind in the trees. The girls sat close together, eating slowly. Their eyes moved constantly, as if they were afraid to miss a single detail of this new world. When the stars began to appear, Daniel stood. "I have to report to the defense station," he said. "But I'll come back tomorrow." Sora's smile faded. "You go?" she asked, "Only for a little while." Daniel replied, "You're safe here." "I promise." Lyra looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Safe," she repeated, as if testing the word. Before he left, Daniel knelt in front of them. "I told you to come home," he said. "This is home now." Lyra's eyes softened. Sora leaned forward and hugged him tightly. He returned the hug, then stood and walked toward his ship. The girls watched as the silver ship lifted into the night sky. Its lights faded until it was just another star among many. They stood there for a while, the wind playing in their hair. Then they turned back toward the village. The houses glowed warmly in the dark. Somewhere inside one of them, a bed and a blanket waited for them, and for the first time in years, they knew they would sleep without fear. Sora took Lyra's hand. "We have no home," she said softly. Lyra smiled. "Except here."